It is not easy to be an Orthodox Christian in this present age. We are like salmon swimming upstream against the current, because the prevailing atmosphere today in the West, and I'm afraid in the traditional Orthodox countries, is becoming more and more secular. The outlook of society as a whole is very different from our Christian outlook on the world. And so here is the fundamental problem. In past ages, you could be Orthodox in an automatic way. You just lived in an Orthodox society and you conformed to the attitudes of the world around you. But today, we cannot simply be Orthodox Christians by instinct, by unconscious inheritance. To be an Orthodox Christian, we must make a personal decision. And that means we are vulnerable. We cannot be Christians automatically. We have to choose. But in the end, that is a good thing, that we should be Orthodox, not just because we happen to be Romanians or Greeks or whatever, but that we should be Orthodox through personal choice. Fundamental to our Orthodox life is the divine liturgy. That is the center of everything, the life-giving source of all our Christian experience. So, the first thing is we must involve the young people in the celebration of the liturgy. We must encourage people to come frequently to communion, always with careful preparation, but frequently. And we must encourage people to share in the liturgy through having good church choirs, and we should encourage congregational singing as well. It is necessary to explain the liturgy to our young people so they can enter into it in a wholehearted way. But another point connected with this, people are looking in the church for social life, for personal contact with others. And so we must try to make our churches centers of friendship and of interchange. We must have enough activities in our parishes linked with the liturgy, growing out of it, which will make the church an attractive place to be. And here, of course, a very important element are the summer camps, which are organized by most Orthodox churches. And I am often struck by the way people tell me, we discovered the Orthodox faith in a living way through going to the youth camps. First of all, the 20th century was for very many Orthodox Christians a time of suffering, persecution, martyrdom. We may think of the experience of the Greeks in Asia Minor who were expelled in 1922-23. We may think of the sufferings in Bolshevik Russia during the 1920s and 30s. And of course, after the war, in Romania, many people suffered for their faith, imprisonment. So this is the first thing that should encourage us. We should look to those who suffered for the faith and who on occasion were willing to die for it. They should be our special examples. But then we have also different spiritual fathers and spiritual mothers. This is true of the Greek, the Romanian, and the Russian traditions. And what we can see in these people very often is a warm and compassionate love. I am thinking of people like St. John of Kronstadt in Russia in the beginning of the 20th century. I am thinking of the spiritual father on the island of Patmos, because I am a monk of the monastery of St. John, the theologian on Patmos. The spiritual father there, Father Amphilochios. I'm thinking of someone such as the Romanian theologian Dimitri Staniloae, whom I knew personally. These people and others, one striking fact was the warmth of their affection towards other people. And we have plenty of examples in our Orthodox Church in recent years of men and women who showed compassionate love, practical compassion. And these examples should inspire us. I have worked more with people of university age, little older than teenagers, but what impresses me with young people whom I meet is their sincerity. The questions they are asking are genuine questions, and they are truly interested in the answers. And it is always a pleasure to talk with people who are genuinely interested. Things may seem very complicated, but I believe when we go deeper, we will find they are in fact quite simple. I am not a prophet. I am chiefly familiar with the Orthodox world in the West. And what is happening in the countries of Western Europe, North America, and also Australia is that the first generation of immigrants, persons born and brought up in the Orthodox countries, this is coming to an end. They are getting older. And we have now a new generation of young people, not just teenagers, but older as well, who have been born and brought up in the Western world. And we must work to keep them within the church. They didn't have the experience of living in a traditional Orthodox country, the people with whom I work. But we have to show them how Orthodoxy is not just a faith for people who live in Greece, Romania, or Russia, that Orthodoxy is a faith for every human being. And wherever they are living, whatever their culture, they will find the answer to their life through their membership in the Orthodox Church. So we have to concentrate on the transition from the first generation of immigrants now to the second generation, which is established in quite some time, the second generation of those born and brought up in the West. We must help them to see that orthodoxy is not just Eastern or Western. Orthodoxy is universal. Every human being has their own private, personal experience. We are all unique. I suppose the path I followed, which brought me into orthodoxy, would not apply to everyone today. My approach to orthodoxy came above all through experiencing Orthodox worship, through going to the vigil services and to the Divine Liturgy. I don't know whether other people today have exactly the same experience as I had. But it is true that underneath all the personal differences that we have, there is a shared humanity. But whether I see examples of myself among young people today, I don't quite know. Most definitely, the young people in our church are not a burden, they are an opportunity. If we do not have young people in our church, what will be our future? Sometimes I go to parishes where all the congregation are elderly. And I ask myself, in 30 years' time, who will be in this church? But when I go to a church and see many young people, children, then teenagers, then I think, this church has a future. These people, with God's help, will be with us in 30 years' time. They will have become the leading members in their communities. So our youth are not a burden. They may be a challenge, but they are an opportunity. They offer us hope. We should not try fundamentally to change our Orthodox faith and our Orthodox practice. We need to preserve faithfully what we have inherited from past generations. Therefore, I do not think we should try to make a lot of changes in our church life in order to keep young people. We must remain what we are, Orthodox, faithful to tradition. But let us remember that tradition is not just statements written in a book or inherited from the distant past. Tradition is the life of the Holy Spirit in the church today. And we must try to convey that to our young people. And we should not try to keep them by offering them an easy path, by watering things down. Our young people will not be interested in a weak and compromised orthodoxy. We should present to them the fullness of the Orthodox faith and not take away the challenge. They will not be interested in something that seems easy and undemanding. We must not be afraid to make real demands upon them. They will respond if they see that orthodoxy stands for something genuine. So then, let us not compromise.